Hello everyone, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program with Realism Overhaul, where I'm going to explore a new engine that has been introduced by Astrobase Space, an Indian company that has India's first full-flow stage combustion rocket engine. It is 80-ton class, which means about 800 kilonewtons, I'm rounding. And they produced a little video, but roughly it looks something like that. Though in the video, people noted that it seems to be missing some important bits, but then the person in charge said, don't worry, it's supposed to be missing the important bits because this version is probably not going to survive anyway. So anyway, lots of testing still needs to be done on it. We are going to take what we know about it at face value, which is not much. All we know is that it's a full-flow stage combustion engine that can produce about 800 kilonewtons, and it runs on methane and oxygen. So it's approximately a mini-Raptor engine, is what I'm looking at here. And I've taken that literally. So we do have a GSLV Mark III. Now, the engine is not meant for the GSLV Mark III. This is the Indian Space Agency's current premier rocket, now called the LV M3. Astrobase Space is not using this. They're doing their own rocket. They are a private company. But I don't know enough about that rocket to do anything with that because we have to know its dry mass and everything. And really, we don't know enough about the engine. So I've created this version of the Everest engine that is basically a mini-Raptor engine. I've nerfed it a little bit. Its sea level specific impulse is 326 seconds. Its vacuum specific impulse is 346 seconds. It is like 1 second off from the Raptor engine in both areas. It is scaled down. Its mass is so that basically it's got a thrust weight ratio of 100, which is, not as good as it could be, not as good as Raptor engines could be, but it is okay approximation to reality. So that is what we're looking at here. And it's using methane and oxygen. It's got lots of gimbaling, because it's that I didn't change from the Raptor engine, and 20 ignitions in this case. So this is the Everest engine. But first, now we're eventually going to try and mess with the GSLV Mark III with this engine. And the question will be, would it produce that much better performance? How much would it do? But right now we have to get the baseline with my version of the GSLV Mark III because we don't know how good my version is, right? Because it might be a little bit off. I've tested it before, but we are mostly interested in what it's capable of doing to the moon. And so I've got the specified payload for GSLV Mark III is 10 tons to low Earth orbit, 4.2 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit, and 3 tons to the moon. So I've got 3 tons to the moon. Now, one reason I'm not doing the low Earth orbit situation is because when I scale this up to the 10 tons, it at least appears that we have too much delta V, but that might be a misreading of the SRB situation because we do light the core before dumping the SRBs, and the SRBs do have a curve. So it is a complicated situation with the SRBs. I am more comfortable with the estimate once we get down to the lunar payload capacity of 3 tons. That genuinely looks like how much it would take to go to the moon. So we'll see if that ends up being the case, and then what we can do with that. Besides, the most interesting missions that the GSLV Mark III has so far done are the Chandrayaan missions to the moon. So, yeah, might as well test that out. So, we've got it set up, hopefully correctly, but I might have some interesting issues along the way. It is a curious thing since the boosters start and have full control of the rocket, and then the liquid engines ignite mid-flight. So we will see how that goes for us. And we should be launching out of Satish Dhawan. So we're looking to reach orbit with this payload with 3,200 meters per second to spare, which is what we need to transfer to the moon with. We seem to have a terrain displacement issue. I do have terrain here at Sadishdawan, but it might be at the wrong height right now, it would appear. So that's a little bit iffy, but we're going to try and get to daylight. We are not lining up with the moon because we are going to just see how much delta V we end up with once we're in orbit. So a little bit barren here, not a proper facility right now, but we'll make do. I'll have to make adjustments. Well, we heard everything before we saw everything. That's a violation of the speed of sound versus the speed of light. But anyway, off it goes. We are past the speed of sound. Okay, we have core ignition. I hope it's told to actually separate the boosters. It actually ended asymmetrically. Yeah, it does. Okay, I was about to do it. Thank goodness it did it. Okay, hydrolock stage. Don't hurt my engine. Well, it should be noted about the trajectory that we're probably going over territory that we're not supposed to. Currently, Indonesia. They would have to aim somewhat lower and then sort of do a dogleg. Well, probably for this mission they'll just aim lower and then work it like that. But we'll keep it consistent to this trajectory, otherwise it complicates things. Alright, we are in orbit with 3052, which is, or 3067, which is less than we ought to have for transferring to the moon, but pretty darn close. And at least it'll be good enough for comparison. We see that with a more optimized trajectory, given the fact that we were wiggling around a little bit, maybe we would have the 3200. That would be more comfortable for me to get to the moon. So yeah, we basically can do a 3-ton payload to the moon given what we have here, and we're just gonna proceed with trying to see how our Methalox version compares using the Everest engine. We have 3067, let's just remember that. There's reason to believe that the engines are differently sized than what I have. I think we could expect a size that's closer to the existing engines on the GSLV Mark III, and that would be fine. So also a little bit heavier. Though if they can make them this small, that'd be great. But these are just resized Raptor engines, so don't expect too much in terms of the fidelity to the real thing here. And their dry mass won't throw things too far off, especially since they're on the core stage rather than the upper stage. So we're going to assume the same volume for the stage. So they're going to, I mean, we can't say that they're going to use the exact same tanks because there's different requirements for UDMH and NTO versus methane and oxygen, and the ratio is going to be different. But we'll just say that they want to keep as much consistent as possible for our experimental purposes here. And we're going to fill up for the Everest engine. And we are overall lighter. It was a 640-ton rocket minus the payload. Now we're basically 609 tons without the payload. We have the same delta V, but we have a higher liftoff thrust-to-weight ratio. So that is the current trade-off, and we'll see how it works out for us. But it's really close. You can see why the test is interesting. It's interesting because it really is close. So is it really going to have any benefit? Let's find out. If it doesn't have any benefit, we're talking about this engine having 800 tons, 326 second ISP sea level, 346 vacuum, compared to on this one 275, 305, and about the same thrust. And the issue is mainly the density of the propellants. So the methane and oxygen are not as dense as the UDMH and NTO. The plus side is you get a higher thrust weight ratio off liftoff, and then the downside is that you just don't have as much propellant in the same tank because we are acting in a volume constrained manner. The right way to do this would be to extend the tank and extend it to the point where right when these engines take over, the thrust weight ratio is 1 at most. So that's what we would want, and right now the tank is too small. But given our constraint here, let's see how it works. So this is GSLV Mark III for Methalox. Oh, the core engines won't be tagged, so they wouldn't have started otherwise. That's a lot of plume. Might need to adjust their plume. Well, but they're just rescaled P.E.K.K.A. engines, so they presumably have the right plume. Okay, we are just on the core stage now. Okay, separation of the core stage. 9 minutes with this stage. He'll have to tilt up a bit. So we can't readily tell right now exactly how much we're going to have left. Just sort of hang out with a little bit of time left to apoapsis, basically. Well, we're going to end up pretty close, as expected. Alright, we are making orbit here, and we end up with 3,218. So we have about a 140 meter per second benefit over the UDMH NTO version with the older engine, the Vicus engine. And most of that is probably down to the higher thrust weight ratio that we had on liftoff. So, and to some extent, that's about it. The higher, I was about to say the higher thrust weight ratio we had with the core afterwards, because it's got about the same amount of thrust, but it's got less propellant, so it does have a higher thrust weight ratio there. But we could certainly get more out of a Methalox stage like that, but for that we would have to change the volume of the stage. So let's take a look. So let's say we wanted to make sure that it still had the same mass. Just need a procedural tank here. We'll probably need a separate inner stage, so we're going to have some extra mass in terms of adding another inner stage here. I'm going to tuck the top of this in because it's actually the inner stage, so it's not. So we're going to go like that. Practically matches. Hardly noticeable at all. So now we're at 643 tons, so it's just about right now with the 3-ton payload, because we expect the rocket to be 640 tons. Okay, so now that would be a proper core. While we're redesigning things, we should probably replace the boosters, but we'll just do that separately. So this is M2. Feels heftier. Oh, I might have included the launch clamps. Oh, why is it gimbling all over the place? Kerbal is so inconsistent, I swear. Here. Maybe I should auto strut. Yep. Root part. Oh no, root part's not good. Okay, fine. Heaviest part, fine. Oh yeah, I have to manually do the core engines. Uh-oh. Ah. How did that work? Wouldn't the boosters have lasted the same amount of time? Off it goes. Oh, right. Auto strut. Keep forgetting that part. Well, better. Okay, off go the fairings. That's safer. Finally, we get to this part. Well, I'm a little bit confused about our current situation because it sure seems like we're not going to get anything extra on extending the core at all. Maybe only a little bit extra. So the hurting of the thrust to weight ratio seems to be more influential than the helping in terms of extending the core stage. But we'll get a little bit more than before, but not a whole lot more. We end up with less than 100 meters per second extra, actually. So maybe about 80. So that's surprising, though. I mean, but we've used the consistent launch script, so we can't just say it's a bad sort of launch. You know, it's been the way it is. So, okay. So we are going to try and replace the boosters with equivalent mass methane boosters. The booster starts off with, at sea level, 5,000 kilonewtons. This is not going to be as dense, but we're going for the same mass. So we'd like 6 engines, a little bit more than 6 engines. But symmetry-wise, that's inconvenient. I guess we can sort of have 2. We can have 6 like that. It's weird, but it's okay. If the core engines are going to light while those boosters are still going, that's not going to work. So, in short, I don't believe we... I mean, I guess we could shift it up anyway, extending to the inner stage and have it attached to the inner stage. I guess it's okay. Okay, so 12 engines, and then the 2 on the core. We probably want the engines on the outside to actually throttle down. And then the timing, of course, on the script is completely wrong. We will accept some deviation and I'll just fly it manually, I think. Okay, there is the Methalox conversion for the GSLV Mark III, except for the Hydrolox upper stage, of course. So, SAS on. Okay, that throttle is working. Throttled up. Ignition. And launch. Alright, getting through max Q here. Oh, we're at the wrong inclination. Okay, well, we're doing a dog leg. Okay, getting ready for core ignition. Core ignition. Booster set. Okay, fairing set. Oh, I should probably up the throttle now. That would be good. Okay, on we go. So, replacing the boosters, much more so than changing the core, is giving us quite a lot more. But that's because we were able to make the boosters the same mass as the old boosters rather than the same volume. Okay, so we are now in orbit with 7,864 meters per second, which is far more than what we had before. So the other three variants, doing minor things with the core, we got 3,200 generally speaking, plus or minus 100 meters per second. But then now, replacing the boosters in an unconstrained way, except for limiting it to the same mass, we get 1,600 extra. So that's a lot more performance. And yeah, well, we can see what we are able to do with this. Of course, this is just with 3 tons at the top. So that's not much. I mean, it's enough for a probe. But if we wanted to have a spacecraft on top, how much can we actually put on top? Let's see. Assuming that we can knock off the specified delta V by a factor of 1,600 meters per second. It says 14,162, and we can reduce that by 1,600. So we're looking for 12,562. About 7.5 to 7.6 tons. So that's something, but that's just translunar injection. So what we're looking at is, could we have a spacecraft that this could launch on just a flyby of the moon, not capturing into orbit around the moon? Could it launch the Gaganyaan spacecraft from ISRO over there, now that it has Methalox boosters and a Methalox core? Well, I will examine that some other time.